This is who we are.
This is who we are.
WADR.
WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, Accra, and an hour late in Praia, 1 p.m. in Abuja and Niamey. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Regional political and security experts lament President Ouattara's presidential ambition in October elections.
I think this is going probably likely to trigger tensions and to lead to localized violence. Because we expect the senior opposition leaders, former President Laurent Gbagbo and Tidiane Cham, who leads the PDCE, to call their supporters to take to the streets.
Sahel Governance Forum gets underway in the Gambia with commitment to consolidate democratic gains, and Liberia imports 10,000 metric tons of petroleum products, the highest quantity in 40 years, to address the energy needs.
LPRC was tapped at importation and gave a bulk product to licensed importers. At the same time, this is about empowering Liberian businesses. Through this process, we want to create more middle income earners.
Ghana's President Mahama condemns recent killing of students in Boko and Nelirigu amid the escalating Boko crisis. Details of these stories and more coming up shortly.
Christopher Aticho with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners within and beyond the sub-region. This edition of Newslink begins in Côte d'Ivoire's reaction continues to build up among the population hours after the official announcement of Alassane Ouattara's candidacy for the October 2025 presidential election. Between concern and hope, Ivorians remain divided over Ouattara's decision to seek a fourth term, an ambition he says is guided by the Ivorian constitution. Francis Boniface has more in this report.
Adabo Bodume Lagoon Station, a neighborhood in the commune of Atekube, in the district of Abidjan. A citizen, initially reluctant to speak, finally shares his feelings following Alassane Ouattara's declaration of candidacy. He says he is surprised by this unexpected announcement. A little further on, in a modest street restaurant, a man in his 50s with grey hair is visibly upset. He believes that aged political figures like Alassane Ouattara and Laurent Gbagbo should now pass the baton and give young people a chance. An opinion not shared by another citizen whom WADR met in a sewing workshop. For him, President Ouattara's achievements are tangible: enhanced security, modernized infrastructure, and restored stability. He advocates for a new term, which he believes is necessary to consolidate the gains made so far. The announcement of Alassane Ouattara's candidacy has therefore sparked mixed reactions. While some see it as a guarantee of continuity in governance, others see it as an obstacle to democratic change, which they now believe is essential. Added to these are concerns about the electoral process. The opposition denounces a series of irregularities, including the removal of several of its main candidates from the electoral list.
Francis Boniface with that report by WADR's Marcel Aristoble in Abidjan. Meanwhile, regional security and political experts have described Côte d'Ivoire's political situation as delicate following President Alassane Ouattara's declaration to run in the October elections. His announcement amid a tense political climate is dividing public opinions on whether he should run or if his reasons for contesting are justifiable. Ouattara backed his ambition with constitutional provisions and current national and international challenges around peace, security, and the economy. Wenyam Hervé Lankwande, an independent political analyst, Francophone Africa, in this chat with WADR, identifies several issues. First, he sees a perceived aggravated tension due to ineligibility status of high-profile opposition politicians.
I think this is going probably likely to trigger tensions and to lead to localized violence. Because we expect the senior opposition leaders, former President Laurent Gbagbo and Tidiane Cham, who leads the PDCI, one of the strongest opposition parties, to call their supporters to take to the streets to, oppose Ouattara's candidacy, and also to demand that Ouattara allows them to run in the upcoming election. And the other issue is that the current regional situation is also tense. We've seen ECOWAS, the African Union, trying to find solutions with military regimes in the Sahel, and with Ouattara using the constitution to run for fourth term. I think this is creating another layer of difficulties for ECOWAS, because in the past, ECOWAS, was seen as being or adopting a double standard policy, trying to be lenient towards civilians, manipulating constitution to remain in power, while taking a strong stance against unconstitutional military takeovers. So I think this candidacy of President Ouattara is creating a kind of dilemma for ECOWAS. At the domestic level, I think it's going to continue nurturing tensions, and the risk of having electoral violence is also high.
And that William Hervé Lankwade is an independent political analyst, Francophone Africa. Away from Côte d'Ivoire, let's shift attention to Ghana, as President John Dramani Mahama has described the recent death of students following renewed clashes in the Boko chieftaincy dispute as unacceptable, with an appeal to the feuding factions to give peace a chance. This comes after the tragic killing of 3 students when gunmen attacked high school's campus in Boko and Nalerigu, opening fire over the weekend. Speaking during a courtesy visit by the overlord of the Gonja Kingdom at the presidency, President Mahama stated that the latest incidents, including the killing of a chief and another individual in Kumasi, have disrupted the efforts of the Otumfuo Mediation Committee to restore lasting peace in the region.
Your Majesty, there can be no progress without peace, and I wish to commend you for the peace that reigns in Gonjaland. It is my wish that other areas will learn from the peace that Gonja enjoys. So I take this occasion to appeal to our brothers and sisters, Kusasis and Mamprusis, to give peace a chance. We cannot accept this current situation where students are shot in school and killed. We can't accept the current situation where teachers, public officers have all run away from Boko because they are afraid for their lives. And we have given the mediation efforts to Otumfuo, and he has briefed me constantly on the progress that he's been making. And we are almost there. And so the current fighting and killings can only be done by people who want to derail the mediation effort. And so let's give peace a chance. But as the army has announced, I have directed the army to move from peacekeeping to peace enforcement. That means they're going to be a bit more robust with anybody who is involved in criminality. And so let us give peace a chance, not only in Boko, but in Nkwanta and all the other places where we currently are suffering conflict.
Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama. Still in Ghana, the opposition New Patriotic Party, the NPP, has officially kicked off the nomination process for its presidential flag bearer ahead of the 2028 general elections. This marks the beginning of a crucial and closely watched contest within the party. The NPP has imposed a freeze on all campaign activities by presidential hopefuls until after the upcoming Akwatia parliamentary by-elections. From Accra, Nadi Data reports.
The New Patriotic Party kicked off its presidential aspirants nominations starting Tuesday, July 29, 2025. The nomination window will remain open until Thursday, August 28, 2025, as announced by the party General Secretary Justin Kudia-Frimpong.
The presidential primaries shall be held on Saturday, January 31, 2026. An aspiring presidential candidate can procure the nomination forms after the payment of a non-refundable application fee of 100,000 Ghana cedis, and it must be done through a banker's draft. Again, an aspiring presidential candidate shall pay a refundable filing fee of 500,000 Ghana cedis.
Right after the nominations opened, Kwabna Eje Ejapong, an outspoken former legislator, Kennedy Ohene Ejapong, officially declared their intentions to contest for the flag bearer position, adding renewed energy and competition to the race. Other leading figures expected to vie for the position include former Vice President and former flag bearer Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, former Education Minister Dr. Yawose Educhum, and former Agriculture Minister Dr. Brian Champong. The party has imposed a freeze on all campaign activities until after the upcoming Akwitia parliamentary by-election to consolidate efforts to retain the seat. The NPP leadership hopes these measures will help prevent internal divisions and build a strong front going into the 2028 elections. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let me take you to the Gambia, where the maiden edition of the Sahel Governance Forum is currently underway in the capital Banjul under the auspices of President Adama Barrow. The high-level event brings together an influential mix of former heads of state, vice president, diplomat, policy experts, and civil society leaders. For 2 days, participants will engage in crucial discussions on governance, peace, and stability across the Sahel region. Sankoli Janko reports.
The two-day gathering provides a common and interactive platform for regional stakeholders to discuss the recommended ways to tackle the pressing issues of peace, security, and democratic governance across the Sahel region. Hosted by the government of the Gambia and spearheaded by the United Nations Development Programme, the Sahel Governance Forum marks the first of its kind in the region. Deputy Government Spokesperson, Office of the President, Prince Boubacar Sankano, says the forum reflects the Gambia's renewed commitment to democratic stability and leadership in West Africa.
Hosting this Premier Sahel Governance Forum is a manifestation of the Gambia government's firm belief and commitment to good governance, democracy, peace, sub-regional security, and continental integration. That's why the Gambia government did not hesitate when it was approached to host this important high-level gathering.
He further stated the Gambian government's readiness to pursue the implementation of recommendations from the regional conference.
Meeting, discussing is one thing, but implementing the ideas is another matter. And the Gambia government, as a firm believer in the due process and the rule of law and international understanding, will do whatever it takes to ensure that all the positive ideas, all the recommendations that come out of this important forum are implemented.
The Sahel Governance Forum is also supported by the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan Foundation and the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, institutions dedicated to building resilient democracies across Africa. For Newslink and West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sankule Janka reporting from Banjul.
Crossing over to Guinea, the transitional president General Mamadou Doumbouya has again carried out a partial reshuffle of the government. The decree read out on national television on Tuesday indicates notable changes characterized by new appointments to strategic positions. While the majority of ministers were retained, several portfolios are now headed by Guineans from international institutions and influential opposition figures. This restructuring is just a few months away from the September 21 referendum. Augustine Colley tells us more.
This new decree makes significant adjustments to the cabinet led by Amadou Ore Ba, the Guinean Prime Minister. The Ministers of Energy, Agriculture, Sports and Infrastructure have been relocated to other departments. In addition, opportunities have been opened to civil servants from international institutions and to certain opposition politicians. One of the most highly discussed appointments is that of Mamadou Selou Balde, a former member of the parliament for the UFDG party led by opposition leader Selou Dalen Jallow. He now inherits the portfolio of youth and youth employment. With these adjustments, the government now has 36 ministerial departments. This reshuffle comes amid a persistent currency crisis less than 2 months before the constitutional referendum scheduled for September 21. For many observers, this reorganization aimed to integrate certain opponents who recently joined the junta in a logic of political appeasement and strengthening of the government team before this major electoral deadline.
A report by WADR's Conakry correspondent Chiano Alpha Ibrahim Baude and presented by Augustine Colley. You're still listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. We are also live on Facebook at WADR English Service as well as YouTube at WADR News. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Regional political and security experts lament President Ouattara's presidential ambition in the October elections. Sahel Governance Forum gets underway in the Gambia with commitment to consolidate democratic gains, and Ghana's President Mahama condemns recent killings of students in Boko and Nalerigu amid the escalating Boko crisis. Still ahead in the news, Liberia imports 10,000 metric tons of petroleum products, the highest quantity in 40 years, to address its energy needs. We do have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let me take you to Liberia, where the country, faced with high fuel prices and artificial scarcity of petroleum products, on Tuesday made its first major import in more than 40 years. The Liberian Petroleum Refinery Company, on behalf of the state, received 10,000 metric tons of petroleum product from Ghana, aimed at improving the supply chain, distribution, and access to Liberians in all regions. The imports coincided with President Joseph Boakai's assessment store of a 17,000 cubic meter gasoline tank in Monrovia. The multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art facility, currently nears completion, will also serve as a petroleum testing laboratory. Our correspondent Abraham Parker has more in this report.
During an assessment tour of the petroleum storage facility located in Monrovia, President Joseph Boakai underscored the overall objectives of the initiative. These are meant to help Liberia achieve economic stability and energy independence.
What you do for this country, it won't matter. We have come through a very difficult time. Our own personal interest can be put first, but it wouldn't help the country. It won't help the future of children.
Boakai's tour of the state-of-the-art facility coincided with the first major importation of 10,000 metric tons of petroleum products into the country. Amos Toye, managing director of the Liberia Petroleum Refinery Company, stated that the move directly supports the government's vision of self-sufficiency and economic resilience.
LPRC is not going into the retail market. It's important to stress that. LPRC was tapped at importation and gave a bulk product to licensed importers. At the same time, this is about empowering Liberian businesses. Through this process, we want to create more middle income earners.
Until this import on Tuesday, Liberia, a country of some 5 million people, solely relies on independent petroleum marketers for its energy needs. This results in high pump prices of petroleum products, artificial scarcity, and a difficult business environment for some business owners, a situation the state hopes to immediately face. Energy experts are for their part calling on the authorities to sustain the multi-million-dollar investment and ensure Liberians buy PMS at affordable rates across all regions. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
In Liberia, the Corporate Affairs Commission (CAC) is moving to delist over 100,000 dormant companies from its registry, sending shockwaves across the business environment of West Africa's largest economy. The development, which targets companies that have failed to meet statutory requirements, is part of a broader push to enhance transparency and compliance in line with international standards. WADR's Usman Umar reports from Abuja.
The Corporate Affairs Commission, Nigeria's company registry agency, is tightening its grip on non-compliant businesses. In a public notice issued this week, the Commission announced plans to strike off more than 100,000 companies from its register, citing prolonged inactivity and failure to meet key legal obligations under the Companies and Allied Matters Act. The move comes as Nigeria intensifies effort to clean up its corporate governance system, aligning with global anti-money laundering frameworks and boosting investor confidence. According to the Commission, the targeted companies have failed to file annual returns, disclose persons with significant control, or operate for over a decade. The Commission has given them 90 days to regularize their status or face dissolution, an action backed by Section 692 of Nigeria's company law. Once delisted, it becomes illegal for the affected firms to engage in any business unless restored through a court order. With Nigeria being a major economic hub in West Africa, the crackdown could have ripple effects on regional trade, investment partnerships, and cross-border services, particularly for businesses registered in Nigeria but operating across the sub-region. Analysts say while the cleanup may enhance transparency, it also underscores the need for businesses to stay compliant or risk being locked out of the region's largest market. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Still in Nigeria, the nurses under the support of the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives Federal Health Institutions sector have commenced a 7-day work warning strike today despite appeal by the federal government. The union says the action, which began at midnight, became necessary following the expiration of a 15-day ultimatum issued on July 14, 2025, demanding improved welfare and fair allowances and better working conditions for nurses across the federal health institutions.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Let's join Sankole Janko for the press review from the Gambia.
Welcome to the newspaper review segment. We begin with the Standard newspaper, and the lead story in the Standard newspaper today reads: Livestock chairman says Jame Commission faked records of sale of Jame's cattle. That is the lead story on the Standard newspaper. An inquiry that was established following the departure of former President Yahya Jammeh. Parliamentary Committee on Jammeh's Assets talks tough. That's another story. This other one reads: NAWEC discovers over 25 illegal connections at Batakunku. Ex-Brikama Area Council Chairman Sonko grill over unaccounted funds. Gambia at UN Food Systems Summit. This other one reads: government establishes standards board for teachers. Let's move to the Fourier newspaper, and the lead story on the Fourier newspaper reads: NAWEC uncovers over 25 illegal electrical connections at former president's garden in Batakunku. According to the lead story of the Fourier newspaper, the National Water and Electricity Company NAWEC uncovers about 25 illegal electrical connections at former President Jammeh's garden. Former Brikama chairman under fire for mismanagement of geology funds. And this other one reads: Gambia faces triple burden of malnutrition, NANA director warns. And finally, let's move on to the Point newspaper. And the lead story on the Point newspaper reads: Kurang implicated in Jammeh assets sale investigation. Kurang was the assistant secretary during the inquiry relating to assets of former President Yahya Jammeh. Judiciary's interdepartmental committee to expedite land dispute adjudication. Euro Money names Access Bank Gambia Best Bank 2025. And former BSC chairman grilled over missing millions during his tenure. I'm afraid these are the major stories making headlines on Gambian dailies.
Thank you very much, Sankole Chanko, for the press review.
Politics,
analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest,
Our guest interview takes us to Côte d'Ivoire as reactions continue to build up among the population after the official announcement of Alassane Ouattara's candidacy for the October 2025 presidential election. Our guest, Wenyam Heavy Lankwade, regional security and political expert, describes the political situation as delicate. According to him, he perceives a heightened tension due to the ineligibility status of high-profile opposition politicians.
This candidacy of President Ouattara is creating a kind of dilemma for ECOWAS. As far as there is no guarantee that Tidiane Cham or Laurent Gbagbo will, compete, I think, violence is going to be likely. But I think it's going to be localized.
It appears that today, with some of the regional leaders, two things are playing out. First, is either the lack of a succession plan, or the fact that the constitution today is being abused. Which one of these two allows for what we are seeing today? What is the problem with leadership there?
The problem here is, I think it's not about, leaders per se. I think it's about, the rule of the game. I think, most of the leaders in Francophone Africa, I think, the issue is really being able to internalize, constitutional rules. We've seen in Togo, President Faure Yassimbe, also trying to change the nature of a regime to stay in power. We've seen also this in Côte d'Ivoire. So the question here is, how to, be able to internalize democratic rules. And this is, I think a question that, we've, difficult answers, because in the case of Côte d'Ivoire, I think there was no serious attempt, I think, to really entrench democratic practices. As far as leaders try to stick to the rule of the game, we're going to see this kind of constitutional manipulation to remain in power.
So how do we expect the situation to change in the coming days? What must ECOWAS do if there is still a room for them to amend the situation before it snowballs into what many would not be hoping and praying for?
I think for ECOWAS it's going to be really difficult to maneuver here, because in the case of Côte d'Ivoire, I think in the next coming weeks, Côte d'Ivoire and President Alassane Ouattara is likely to submit his candidacy, and it will be up to the Constitutional Court to validate or not his candidacy. And I think that Ouattara will probably try to fashion his candidacy as a candidacy that is constitutional, and as far as it has the green light from the Constitutional Court. Now for ECOWAS, I think they should maybe adopt a pragmatic stance, trying to accommodate with the military rulers. What I'm saying is not that they should accept military coups, but trying to be realistic, because the Sahelian countries we are talking about, these are also countries with weak political institutions, and coups are part of the rule of the game. And I think to address this issue we need reforms. And we don't end military coups with sanctions. It's about conducting structural reforms, and this is something ECOWAS and international partners should do for these countries to make sure that there is a chance for democracy and rule of law in these countries.
Wenyam Heavy Lankwade is an independent political analyst with the Francophone Africa. And in sports this afternoon, as co-host of the Total Energies CAF African Nations Championship, Chan 2024, Tanzania is set to make their third appearance in the tournament with the pride and passion of a nation behind them. The Taifa Stars will look to leverage home advantage to progress beyond the group stages for the first time in their history. Under the guidance of head coach Hemed Morocco, Tanzania will aim to capitalize on the rising profits or profile of their domestic league in recent performance in the CAF competitions. And to some basketball news, after 3 days of competition and 12 games, 4 teams have secured a spot in the quarterfinals of the 2025 Women's AfroBasket, having led their respective groups without losing a single game. However, the remaining 8 teams will compete for the remaining 4 spots in the round of 16, which is scheduled for today, Wednesday, July 30. Mozambique will take on Guinea, Egypt will take on South Sudan, and Senegal will take on Rwanda, whereas Cameroon would also take on Angola. And with that, we've come to the end of sports this afternoon. And that's how we end this afternoon's edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Sheikh Njai for the technical assistance. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our Agenda Program 5050. I am Christopher Ticho. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.
WADR. You can listen to us on 94.9 FM in Dakar through our website www.wadr.org.
This is West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar.
The program you're about to listen to